या देवी स्तूयते नित्यं विबुधैर्वेदपारगैः सा मे वसतु जिह्वाग्रे ब्रह्मरूपा सरस्वती। नमामि नारायणपादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायणपूजनं सदा वदामि नारायणनामरमलं स्मरामि नारायणतत्त्वमव्ययम्. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Mahaperiva and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into Desagam 16, Canto number 1. The description of this Desagam 16 is called Nara Narayana Avatara Varnanam and Daksha Yaga Varnanam. That means description of Nara Narayana Avatara of Nara Narayana, and also the Daksha Yaga. The syllables in the individual pada are 14. There are 4 padas and each pada contains 14 syllables. The meter is called as the Vasanta Tilaka. The Dasaka is covered by this Bhagavatam 4th Skanda, verses from 1st Adhyaya 47th verse to end of 4th Adhyaya 7th verse. Bhagavatam Chaturtha Skandam, 1st Adhyaya 47th verse to the end of 4th Adhyaya 7th verse. This is condensed in this Dasaga. We'll now go to the verse. Daksho virinjatanayota manostanujam labdva prasutimiha shodasha chapa kanyaha dharme trayodasha dadau pitrushu swadham cha swaham habir bhujisatim girishe tvadamshe. Daksho virinjatanayotha manustanujam labdva prasutimiha shodasha chapa kanyaha dharme trayodasha dadau pitrushu swadham cha swaham havirbhujisatim girishe tvadamshe. Ata virinchataneyaha dakshaha manoho tanujam prasutim labdva iha shodasha kanyaha apacha dharme trayodasha pitrushu swadham habirbhuji swaham satim tvadhamshe girishe cha dadau. This is the Anvaya. We'll go into the meaning now. Ata, then, Virincha Tanayaha Dakshaha. Daksha, the son of Brahma. Brahma is called Virincha. So, Virincha Tanayaha. Manoho Tanujam Prasutim. Prasuti, the daughter of Manu. Labdva, having got as his wife. Iha, through her. Shodasha Kanyaha Apacha, begot 16 daughters. Shodasa Kanyaha. Dharme Trayodasha, to Dharma 13 daughters. Pitrushu Swadham, Swadha to the mains or forefathers. Havirbhuji Swaham, Swaha to Agni. Havirbhuji means Agni. Satim Tvadamshe Girishecha, and Sati to Girishaha means Shiva. Tvadamshe, an aspect of thyself. Dadau, gave. So then Daksha, the son of Brahma, married Prasuti, the daughter of Manu, and got 16 daughters through her. He gave 13 of them to Dharmadeva in marriage. The daughter named Swada to the mains or ancestors or forefathers, Swaha to Agni, and Sati to Shiva, who is she an aspect of thyself. This Dashaka talks about how the further evolution takes place. Daksha, as we have seen, he was born from the thumb of Brahma. We saw in the Dasagam 10th verse number 7. So, from Marichi to Vasishtha, there were 8 rishis mentioned there. Afterwards, Daksha Prajapati was born. Then Narada came. So these were described in 10th verse, 10th Dasagam, 7th verse. So from this Daksha, from this Dasagam onwards, we see the Visarga Leela is described. Visarga means Pratisarga, opposite of Sarga. Sarga is creation. Visarga is Laya, Nivritti. Sarga is Pravritti. Visarga is Nivritti or Moksha. So one can also see it as Adhyapa, Adhyaropa. Adhyasa means superimposition, and then Apavada means negation. It's a process of Adhyaropa and Apavada. From this comes the Visarga aspect is covered from this Dasakam onwards. It is mentioned here that Daksha, having married Prasuti, who is the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, begot 16 daughters through her. The 16 daughters named are given in the Bhagavata. I'll just read out the names. They are Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti, Kshama, Pushti, Kriya, Unnati, Buddhi, Medha, Titiksha, Hri, Murti. These are the 13 daughters mentioned here. Shraddha, all these represent also certain values also. So Shraddha symbolizes the Bhakti aspect, the faith, and the Ekagrata aspect is covered in Shraddha. The second daughter Maitri represents the Sneha, the friendship. Third, the Daya represents the Karunya or the compassion for the unhappy persons. Fourth, Shanti means glad accommodation or acceptance. Fifth, Tushti represents the contentment or Santosha, happiness also, born of Tushti. Santushta eva Santoshaha. Sixth, Pushti. Pushti means prosperity, also Vikasaha, expansion also we can say. Seventh, Kriya means pravritti. Eighth, Unnati means the ascent, progress. Ninth, Buddhi means the intelligence. The 10th, Medha means Dharana Shakti. In Dharana means this, the Medha, the memory aspect. It covers Dharana, Grahana and Spurana. There are 3 aspects in there. Capacity to hold, capacity to absorb, capacity to recollect, remember. So these 3 are covered in Medha. Then comes the Titiksha. Titiksha means no vidvesha bhava, patience, forbearance or endurance. We normally say what cannot be cured must be endured. It should be what cannot be cured is to be endured. The Titiksha bhava is also covered. And the 12th is called Hri. Here means the Shila, the character. And the 13th is called the Murti, the Rupa, the form. So all these names represents also symbolically the sadhanas or the means, and also the value aspects also are covered. So these 13 daughters were married to Yama. Here we could see here that Yama represents he symbolizes dharma only. He is the Yama Dharma, we call him. Dharanat Dharma Nityahuhu Dharmo Dharayati Prajaha. It is described by Vyasa in this manner, that which supports Dharma and that which is also the order of the creation, the basis, is called Dharma. So that function is held by Dharmaraja, and therefore is called Dharmaha. Dharanat Dharma Nityahuhu Dharmo Dharayati Prajaha. So the Yamadharmaraja represents the Dharma. So this Dharma, Yamaraja, is married to all these 13 wives. All of them represents the values. Here it's very important. All these values are to be followed without compromising Dharma. That is why the link is established as Dharma to these 13 wives. And then thereafter, the 14th wife is given to Swaha, the daughter named Swada. Swaha is to Agni Bhagavan. We always say in the verse of Veda also, Agnaye Swaha. Swaha also means oblation. Here it also means the Swaha, the wife, is offered to Agni. So, Agnaye Swaha. Then the Pitrubhya Swadhastu, there is a verse also in the Upanishad. Pitrubhya Swadhastu. So the Pitrubhya, Pitrushu which is said, so Bahuvajanam is there, to the mains, to the ancestors, the Swadha is given. And Sati to Shiva. Sati is to Shiva. Sati is the daughter, the 16th daughter of Daksha Prajapati. It is given to Shiva, it is mentioned, he is an aspect of Earth herself. Because Shiva and Vishnu are nothing but Parabrahman. So Shiva and Sati represents also the Purusha and Prakriti. We have to see where. Shiva Tattva and Shakti Tattva. Shiva represents also the Parabrahma and Sati represents the Prapancha, the Prakriti, the Maya. It could be seen as that. So there is a union of the Parabrahma and Maya in this for the purpose of the creation. So that's how this union is talked about in Sati to Shiva. And Shiva is considered as an aspect of Vishnu, aspect of the Parabrahman also. The Agni represents the Prakasha or the brilliance aspect of the Parabrahma. They manifest in that. So the manifest brilliant aspect of the Parabrahma Chaitanya is represented by the word Agni. And Pitruha means the forefathers, the ancestors, they represent the lineage and the source for progeny or sustaining creation. That's how this verse explains how further Sarga takes place. We'll go into the verse number 2 in the next session. Bhave bhave yatha bhaktihi padayostava jayate tata kurusha devesha natastvam no yatha prabhu nama sankirtanam yasya sarvabhava pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana akila guru bhagavan namaste. Hariyo. Ya devi stuyade nityam विबुधैर वेदपारगैः सामे वसतु जिह्वाग्रे ब्रह्मरूपा सरस्वती. नमामि नारायण पादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायण पूजनं सदा वदामि नारायण नामनिर्मलं स्मरामि नारायण तत्त्वमव्ययम्. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Guru Parampara, Mahaperiyava and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into Canto 2 of Dasakam 16. Prior to that, I just want to make a reference about this, about the uniqueness of the Sanskrit language. In Sanskrit language, one word or one dhatu can have multiple meanings, number one. Number two, the word itself holds the meaning. For this, we can give as an example, when we went through the verse number 1, it was mentioned that the Daksha married Prasuti. The word Prasuti is very suggestive. Prasuti means the one who gives birth to child, or Utpatti. So we saw that they got 16 daughters. So the word itself says that it is called Prasuti means one who gives birth to child, or Utpatti. Similarly, the word like Sati, we saw that the last daughter was married to Shiva, who is not Sati. Sati means one who is faithful. There is a custom that in the case of widow, they sacrifice herself on the husband's funeral pyre. Here also you will see later that Sati is sacrificing her life in the fire, but Daksha is performing the yajna itself because she is immolating herself, because the Daksha ignored her totally and insulted her. So the Sati means one who he is faithful, and because she is faithful, she is ready to sacrifice herself for her husband. So this is the meaning of the word Sati. So the Sanskrit has got this uniqueness of the word holding the meaning. There are many number of examples. I thought I could cite these two in this instance. Now we want to the verse number 2. Murtirhi dharma grihini sushuve bhavantam नारायणं नरसखं महितानुभावं यज्जन्मनि प्रमुदिता कृततूर्यघोषाः पुष्पोत्करान् प्रबभृशुर्नुनुवुस्सुरौघाः अन्वय मूर्तिर्हि धर्मगृहिणी सुषुवे भवन्तं नारायणं नरसकं महितानुभावं यज्जन्मनि प्रमुदिता कृततूर्यघोषाः पुष्पोत्करान् प्रबभृशुर्नुनुवुस्सुरौघाः अन्वय धर्मगृहिणी मूर्तिर्हि महितानुभावं भवन्तं नारायणं नरसकं सुषुवे यज्जन्मनि प्रमुदिताः सुरौघाः कृततूर्यघोषाः पुष्पोत्करान् प्रबभृशुः नुनुवुः. Meaning, Dharmagृहिणी मूर्तिः मूर्ति, the wife of Dharmadeva, Mahitanubhavam, of great glory, Bhavantam Narayanam, the as Narayana, Narasakam along with Nara, Sushuve gave birth to, Yet Janmani at which birth, Pramutitaha Suraugaha, the gods who were extremely delighted, Krita Turya Ghoshaha, sounding musical instruments, Pushpotkaran Pravabrishuhu, rained heaps of celestial flowers, Nunuvuhu, and praised. Murti, the wife of Dharmadeva, gave birth to thee as Narayana, of great glory, and Nara. At that birth, the gods who were extremely delighted sounded musical instruments, rained flowers, and praised thee. In this verse, the birth of Naranarayana is mentioned here. Naranarayana avatar is one of the 24 avatars of the Lord Mahavishnu. We saw in the last verse that Daksha, after marrying Prasuti, gave birth to 16 daughters, and he gave 13 daughters to Dharmadeva, and one of the daughters' name was Murti. So it's mentioned that Murti, who is one of the wives of Dharmadeva amongst the 13, she gave birth to Narayana and Nara. Nara and Narayana are considered to be the twin brothers avatar of Vishnu on earth. They stand for the preservation of righteousness. It is mentioned that toward their life they did intense tapas and meditated on themselves, on the Swarupa of the Vishnu. It is mentioned that they are still dwelling in the Badrinath. Let us have a look at the meaning of this word Nara and Narayana and what is mentioned in Vishnu Sahasranama for our own understanding. The word Narayana, let us have a look at the meaning. Nariyate iti naraha, then the one who never dies is called Naraha. So the Jiva, a human being, is also called Nara because he also never dies. The Jiva is Anati. We should always understand that birth and death is only with reference to the body is called the birth of the Jiva. Sharira samyogaha janmaeva and Sharira vyogaha maranameva. But the Jiva as such is ageless, is limitless, is Anadi. So there is no death for Jiva. Therefore Jiva is also called Naraha. And the Paramatma also is Naraha because he is the infinite, the limitless, unborn. If the Jiva does not know, then he continues in some form or other until he knows. So as the ignorance comes, Jiva takes birth from one body to another, changes body one to another as long as the ignorance continues. But he never perishes. Therefore he is Nariyate. But if he knows himself as the limitless, unborn Atma, then he also becomes timeless. He gains moksha and therefore he is one with the Ishvara. So that which is the Ayana, the ultimate end of every Nara, is called Narayana. Narayana means the destination. So the Lord Narayana is the ultimate end of every Jiva because Jiva's Swarupa is Narayana. So the Jiva is, Swarupa is Narayana. Because of ignorance, he considers himself as finite. Therefore, Narayana, Narasya Ayanameva Narayana. The word Nara also means the Atma. That means those that are born of, that is the products of Nara, such as Akasha, Vayu and so on, are all called Nara. Naraha. So, Naraha Atma, Tato Jatani, Akashadini, Narani Karyani. Tani Karyani Ayate, Karanatma Vyapnoti. This is a definition given by Shankara in this Bhashya. In short, it means that those that are born of the products of Nara, such as Akasha, Vayu, etc., they are called Nara. So, Nara is also means that which is the Jagat, the entire world, belongs to the Nara, is called Naram or Jagat, the world. Now, the world is born out of all-pervasive Paramatma, sustained by Paramatma, and goes back to Paramatma. Therefore, Narasya Ayanam Narayanam Eva. So that also we can see the meaning flowing here. The Lord pervades all of them, therefore there is Ayana. The Ayana should be seen as all pervasiveness. Hence he is called Narayana. So Narasya Ayanam, that the Nara, the Jagat is sustained by the Paramatman. And therefore Ayanam, Narasya Ayanam, Narayana. We can also see that Nara is then the entire world, and the one who knows it is Narayana. Also we can take that way. So one who knows is Narayana. We can see in this manner also. And Shankara also quotes here a few verses from the Shruti Smriti Purana and Mahabharata to show the subtle elements are referred to as Nara, and the Lord is their Ayana. So all the subtle elements, their substratum is Narayana, Ayana. That way meaning is given. And as all the Naras, Jivas merge into the Lord during Pralaya, another meaning is given. Naranam, Jivanam, Ayanatvat, Pralaya itiva. That means at the time of Pralaya, he is Naranam, Ayanam, their abode, and hence Narayana. The name Narayana is because during Pralaya, all the Jivas merge into the Lord. Therefore, Naranam, Ayanam, their abode, hence Narayana. So, Narasya Ayanam Narayana, Naranam Ayanam Narayana, the world rests on the Narayana. Jiva also is completely merging the Lord. So during the Pralaya, therefore Jivanam Ayanatvat Pralayativa Narayana. So these are the different meanings of the word Narayana, which is given in the Vishnu Sahasranama Shankara Bhashya. The word Naraha also has given another meaning also. It comes in another context. There it is given as Nayatiti Naraha Proktaha Paramatma Sanatanaha Iti Vyasa Vajanat. Here it says, according to Vyasa, Paramatma is known as Nara because he directs the Jiva to do karma and then gain the results. And therefore he is called also Nara. So the Paramatma also is called Nara because he is the one who leads the Jiva. And of course he is Nariyate iti Naraha, is also imperishable. So both these qualities are brought about, therefore Naraha. So we'll find note from here that Nara and Narayana cannot be separated. So even if you say Nara is a human being, the Swarupa of the human being is only the Paramatma Tattvam. Therefore Nara cannot be separated from Narayana. They are two in one. So in this verse also, that importance is given here, mentioned that they are born as the twin brothers, twin sons of the Murti, the wife of Dharmadeva. And at the time of their birth, the gods were extremely delighted. They were extremely delighted because it is the avatar of the Lord himself. Because they are great tapasvi, it is mentioned that they are called as the Maharishis. They did intense tapas. And through tapas, they gained their sakshatkara. So the tapas aspect is coming about. This tapas is for the Loka Sangraha, for the welfare of the world. So since they did tapas throughout their life, so sounding that essence of the tapas, the gods were extremely delighted. And so they rained flowers and sounded musical instruments and praised thee. So the devas were very happy, is indicated here. We will go into the verse number 3 in the next session. Bhave bhave yata bhaktihi padayostava jayate tata kurushva devesha natastvam noja prabhu nama sankirtanam yasya sarva bhava pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana akila guru bhagavan namaste. हरि ओम्। या देवी स्तूयते नित्यं विबुधैर्वेदपारकैः सा मे वसति जिह्वाग्रे ब्रह्मरूपा सरस्वती। नमामि नारायणपादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायणपूजनं सदा वदामि नारायणनामनिर्मलं स्मरामि नारायणतत्त्वमव्ययम्. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Vairappan, Guru Mahaperiva and Guru Parampara, we are now on Dasakam 16, Canto number 2. Canto number 3. Daityam Sahasra Kavajam Kavajaif Paritam Sahasravatsarataparas Samarabhilavyaihi Paryaya Nirmita tapassamarau Paryaya Nirmita tapassamarau bhavantau Shishtaika kankatamamum Nyahatam salilam. Repeating again. Daityam sahasra kavajam kavachaif paritam Sahasravatsaratapas samarabhilavyaihi Paryaya nirmita tapassamarau bhavantau Shishtaika kankatamamum Nyahatam salilam. Anvaya bhavantau Sahasra vatsara tapassamarabhilavyaihi Kavachaihi paritam Sahasrakavajam daityam Paryaya nirmita tapassamarau Shishtaika kankatam Salilam nyahatam. Amum salilam nyahatam. Meaning, bhavantau, thou who are Nara and Narayana, Sahasravatsara tapassamarabhilavyaihi means Sahasravatsaram kritena tapasa samarena cha abhilavyaihi chedyaihi means which could be pierced only by penance for 1000 years and fighting for the same duration. Kavachaihi paridam, covered by 1000 coats of armor. Sahasra Kavajam Daityam, the asura known as Sahasra Kavacha. Paryaya nirmita tapassamarau. Paryayena nirmitau tapascha samarascheti tapassamarau yabhyam tau. This is the Utpati. Doing penance and fighting by turns. Shishtaika kankatam. Shishtaha ekaha kankataha kavachaha yasyatam. Who was left with only one coat of armor. Amum, him, the asura, salilam nyahatam, did kill effortlessly like a sport. The asura known as Sahasra Kavaja had 1000 coats of armor which could be pierced only by one who does penance for 1000 years and fights during an equally long period. So thou as Nara and Narayana did do this by turns, when one was doing penance, the other was fighting, and destroy all his coats of armors. That is all the 1000 armors, one by one. When the asura was left with only the last armor, thou did kill him effortlessly. Here the story of Sahasra Kavacha is talked about. This Sahasra Kavacha, there is a mention here that this slaying of the Sahasra Kavacha, this part is not found in the Bhagavata. This has been taken by Matadri part from the Mahabharata. There is an episode like this. Dambhodbhava, by demonic qualities, wanted to become immortal and did penance for 1000 years on Lord Surya. Lord Surya, pleased at his devotion, appeared before him. He then asked for the boon of immortality, which Surya said he cannot give because nobody can be immortal. a person once born has to die. Then he asked for a very complicated boon. He said, let me be protected by 1,000 armors, that's called Sahasra Kavaja, in my chest, and can be removed by only a person who has performed 1,000 years of penance. And after fighting him for 1,000 years continuously. And at a time only one armor can be removed. And the moment he rips off my armor, he shall fall dead. So Lord Surya, without any option, gave the boon. So now Dambodhava knew that nobody can kill him. So he started harassing all beings, celestial beings, humans, animals, etc. Harassed by all the beings, the Devas and others prayed, and it was at this time that he came to the Badrinath and started destroying whatever was in sight and also disturbing the tapas. Nara and Narayana were in Badrinath and they were doing tapas for thousands of years. So when Nara, after completing thousands of years, he fought with this Dambodhava and pierced his first armor of Sahasra Kavaja. But at the next moment, Nara fell dead as per the boon. But to the surprise of Dambodhava, he found that Nara again got up because he had the mastery of the Amrita Sanjeevani mantra. Therefore, the Nara got up and then fought for 1,000 years with him. And again at that time, and he pierced the second armor. Alternatively, next 1,000 years, Narayana fought with him. So in this manner, alternatively they fought with him and destroyed all their armors one at a time. Every time the armor was removed, they are only to brag about the Narayana fell. Again, with Sanjeevana Mantra, he got up. So when the last armor was left, the Dambodhava, here it is mentioned that the Asura was left with only the last armor and Narayana could kill him effortlessly. But there is also another story which says that when the last armor was left, he wanted to escape. He went to Surya and sought abode in him. So Surya absorbed him, the Sahasra Kavaja in him. But Surya wanted to get rid of him at the earliest as he was troubling him. It was at this time that Kunti got a boon from the Rishi and Sahasra, and she sought that boon from the Vinod in Mahabharata, that Kunti got the boon from Durvasa. So she sought the boon from sun, that she wanted a son. And at that time, the Lord Sun said that, gave that boon, and Sahasra Kavaja was reborn as Karna, with the last armor remaining in him, and also along with the earrings. We know the Kundala, Kavaja Kundala. And thereafter, we know the battlefield that Krishna and Arjuna is mentioned. They were born as the Narayana and Nara. And finally, Arjuna killed Karna in the battlefield. This is how the story goes. So this is not in the Bhagavata, but this is in the Mahabharata, and that has been quoted by the Bhattatripat. Here we have to understand here the quintessence of this story. It symbolizes a lot of inner meanings. Naranarayana, the penance, the fight, the Sahasra Kavaja, and the slaying of the Asura, all these things are of greater importance and to be pondered over. Tapas is always antarmukha, turning the mind inwards. So samara or fight is always bahirmukha, externally. They are two opposites. So one fights encounters the situation outside. Nara represents the sloka and represents the Narayana represents the Shashvata Loka or Vaikuntha. So symbolically we can see here, our worldly life is also embroiled or caught up in a cobweb of thousands of knots in the form of attachments and corresponding likes and dislikes. This can be symbolized to the 1,000 kavajas. We think that these kavajas will protect us and give us happiness, but we always notice that there is always a sense of incompleteness. So these kavajas symbolically represented by the Asura, Sahasra Kavaja. This represents the attachments, the corresponding likes and dislikes. As we draw our mind inward, antarmukha, we get progressively released from the external ties or knots. Baba used to say, properties are not proper ties. All possessions are not proper ties. So the number 1000 Sahasradaya should be seen like that. It represents only a number. It could be seen also as countless many. The episode of Naranarayana represents the fact that after doing penance for 1000 years, alternatively, one gets released from the bondage of samsara. 1000 years every time means that a long period of time is required for one to get released from the bondage of samsara. It is what mentioned. It should be understood here that the devas, when we talk about here, I am just symbolical meaning I am extending further. The episode of Naranarayana represents the fact that after doing penance for 1000 years, they get released from the bondage of samsara. And then one gains also like this, when one gets released from the bondage of samsara, one gains the paripurna atma jnanam or self-knowledge. Because the Ananda is talked about, when the Asura was killed, that all were happy. So that Ananda aspect is also talked about here. Devas represent the Indriyas. We know Asura means Asusu Ramate Yatin Esminiti Asuraha. One who delights the Indriyas are the Asuras. And one who has got master over the Asuras, they are become the Devas. So it is always a constant fight of Devas and Asuras in our life also. We always fall slave to the senses and go after the sense objects. So how to overcome this? Only through tapas. Tapas, we mean this is also the willful self-denial, mastery over the senses. Should be seen that way. So when we win over the tapas, then that becomes an absolute victory. So that delights the Indriyas. So we become the master of the Indriyas, and there is Ananda. So that Devas Ananda can be equated in this manner. And we become independent, Swatantra and not Paratantra, inasmuch as the mind of a sadhaka has gained steadfastness, that is Stairyam and Atma Vinigraham. Atma Vinigraham is mastery over the mind, Stairyam is the steadfastness. Hence the Ananda, the expression of happiness, the Naranarayana, are two aspects of one reality only, which represents the Swarupa of Parabrahma. Parabrahma as Satya and Maya Prapancha cannot be two. Maya is only an appearance and it is Brahmashraya. So only when Maya is seen as Mithya, the truth is revealed and the doubts disappear. So for this only tapas and fight, both which are alternating in life, like in this episode we saw, they are talked about. So the knots of samsara represents the multiple kavacha or armors. And when one gets released from these knots, one gains the knowledge of Atma Swarupa or the absolute reality, which is the symbolic meaning of this episode also. There's a verse which takes out about Vidyade Hridayat Gandhihi Chidyande Sarva Samsayaha Kshiyande Chasya Karmani Drishtva Evatma Ishvare or Drishtva Param Tapa. This verse also talks about that. So there is also a reference of this also in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 8 verse number 7, when Lord Krishna says how one should fight the battle of life and at the same time keep the mind fixed on God. This we'll take up in the next session. Bhave bhave yatha bhaktihi padayostava jayade tata kurusha devesha natastvam nojata prabhu nama sankirtanam yasya sarva bhava pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Hari Om. Ya Devi Stuyade Nityam Vibhudar Veda Paragaihi Same Vasadu Jihvagre Brahma Rupa Saraswati. Namami Narayana Padam Pangajam Kurovi Narayana Pujanam Sada Vadami Narayana Namadharmalam Smarami Narayana Tattvam Avayam. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Mahapariva and Guru Parampara. We are now continuing our discussion on Dasaga 16, verse number 3. In the last session, we saw the episode of Sahasra Kavacha Dambodbhava and also related its implications for a spiritual aspect from one perspective. The same thing I would like to also represent in another manner. Dambhodbhava means one who has pretense. Born of Damba means one who has pretense or pride. This represents the split personality of a person, which is the byproduct of ahankara. Asura, earlier we saw, is one who leads a life indulging in sensual pleasures. So Asura is one who leads a materialistic life, feeding the senses outwards with sense objects. Totally an extroverted life. The 1,000 armors which are mentioned here in the Sahasra Kavacha they represent the possession of sense objects for material life. And the Asura means one leading an unrighteous life. So the purely a person who is leading a sakama, adharma life. The Asura meditated on Surya Bhagavan, symbolizing the fact that a material person also uses God to enjoy the world. He does not use God for spiritual growth, he uses here for enjoying the world. A spiritual person uses the world to enjoy God, whereas a material person uses the God to enjoy the world, which we saw in the case of here Sahasra Kavacha. Nara and Narayana represent the Sura or Daivik aspect of an individual. There is always a constant tussle between Asura and Sura, the materialistic personality and the spiritual person, even within us. The Asura sought a boon from Surya that his armor can be destroyed only after doing tapas for 1,000 years. Means one armor to be destroyed 1,000 years tapas, which indirectly means that one can win over the Asuric or the demonic aspect, the finite aspect of life by connecting oneself only to the infinite, which is represented in the word tapas. 1,000 years tapas means disconnecting from the finite and connecting to the infinite. Antharmukha we saw earlier also. Only willful self-denial to gain mastery of mind over senses and sense objects. Nara and Narayana represent the divine aspect of a sadhak, who by relating himself to the infinite, that is Nara and Narayana, can win over the asuric aspect and Asura within us in the form of Dambhodbhava or Sahasra Kavacha. The fight is continuous, which is indicated by the fact that Nara and Narayana fought for thousands and thousands of years to destroy his armors or Kavacham, and then finally killed him. As we progress spiritually, we also have to fight the asuric tendencies in us, which are more powerful, through continuously connecting ourselves to God or infinite principle, which is represented by tapas, which finally gives us freedom from the bondage of samsara. Samsara is like the Asura Sahasra Kavachas of Asura, Dambhodbhava. Material possession appears to be a shield or armor, but they are not the source of peace, security and happiness. Pleasures are sentient, and they ultimately end up only in sorrows or as sorrows. Only a life of tapas, meaning remembering God at all times and connecting to God or infinite principle, can give us absolute peace, security and happiness. This is the inner implication of this tale. Last session I mentioned also that there is a reference in Bhagavad Gita, verse number 7 of chapter 8, which says how we can fight the battle of life and at the same time keep the mind fixed on God. So I would like to go through that verse, which will be very useful for us. The verse says like this: तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मर युध्य च मय्यर्पित मनोबुद्धिः मामेवैष्यस संशयः. Tasmat, therefore, sarveshu kaleshu, at all times, mam anuspara, remember me, yudhya cha, and fight, arpita manobuddhihi, being one whose mind and intellect are offered, mayi, in me, mameva eshyasi, you will reach me alone, asamshayaha, without a doubt. So the meaning of these words like this, therefore, remember me at all times and fight. Being one whose mind and intellect are offered to me, you will reach me without a doubt. This is a very assuring verse. First of all, Lord says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara. Therefore, at all times think of me. The plural here used kaleshu is used here to indicate the seasons, day and night, etc. That is, in winter, summer, autumn, etc. Throughout the year and the next, may you think of me. I mean, continuously think of me. Not merely smara, but anusmara is used. Anu means it's a preposition, upasarga, means in keeping with something so. Shankara has commented like this, in keeping with the Shastra, yata Shastram anusmara. Please think of me as you have learned from the Shastra. There is no other way. You cannot think of Bhagavan unless you know something of him. Since it's a question of knowing the Lord, as it is taught by the Shastra, may you pursue him all the time by Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. Then here says, Yudhya cha, and fight. Think of me and fight. This is for Arjuna, but we have to extend it to ourselves also here. Arjuna's situation is a battle, but it can be daily prayer or whatever needs to be done also. Do your duty, play your roles and pursue me. In the process, you will come to know me. Let us assume Arjuna has come to know that Atma is Brahman. Then he knows that he is not a doer and will spontaneously do what has to be done. So he does not need advice, nor does he need teaching. But Arjuna knows and does not know. And in this situation, this yoga is important. So Lord Krishna is therefore telling Arjuna to be a karma yogi. If you are a jnani, nothing is going to affect you, so you can easily do what is to be done. But if you are ajnani, like the ignorant persons like us, you had better follow the script of your role. It is the motive that is important here. It's like a servant performing his duties. Even though he is requested to do something he does not like, he will do it because all his actions are motivated by the master. His own personal intentions and motives are relegated to the background, and he does what is to be done. So if the action is a pleasant one, there is no problem. But if it is a battle, as it was for Arjuna, it definitely requires an appreciation of dharma. So for a Kshatriya like Arjuna, there is nothing better than a battle which is in keeping with dharma, as Lord Krishna had reminded him earlier also in the second chapter. So he says, so may you do what is to be done. It is due to dharma alone that you are acting, and the dharma is the Lord. When you conform to righteousness, you are with the Lord. Then the Lord says, Mayi arpita mano buddhihi. To me, Ishvara, his mind and intellect are offered. The seeker is here, Mayi arpita mano buddhihi, the one whose mind and intellect are offered to me. How do you offer your mind and intellect to the Lord? Situations always call for certain actions. What is to be done becomes very obvious and relevant to that. So there is sankalpa in your mind. This is to be done, that is to be done, etc. And that is Ishwar sankalpa, because you did not create the situation, nor the sense of propriety that dictates the action. This is not the case with Duryodhana. He created the situation, but Arjuna has to meet it with proper action. So that propriety is the order that is uncreated by man, which we call dharma. So it is not Arjuna's creation, much less Duryodhana's. That order creates the sankalpa in Arjuna that Duryodhana has to be punished. Against that is a sankalpa of his own. So why should I fight my own people? This is not Bhagavan's sankalpa. It is a personal sankalpa born of Arjuna's affection. If that is offered unto Ishvara sankalpa, he becomes a Mayi arpita manaha. Buddhi is your conclusion of doership, that I am doing something, that I am the cause of something. Certain things are to be done, and in doing them, you surrender your ahankara. That is why we talked about the asura. Buddhi here can also mean your personal prejudices. So the buddhi is offered to me in the sense of pursuit of me according to the Shastra as pointed out. This is Mayi Arpita Buddhi. So when the buddhi is offered in the pursuit of the truth of myself, or in surrendering the notion of doership, and the mind is offered in the form of sankalpas, conforming to dharma or righteousness, one becomes Mayi Arpita Manobuddhi. Such a person is not in conflict. He gains Antakarana Shuddhi, purity of mind, and it is not going to take time for him to understand what I am. That there is what I am and what is the Ishvara. Who is the Ishvara? And that is not separate from the Ishvara. Mameva eshyasi. You will come to me alone. How? You will come to recognize me and thereby become me. As earlier it was pointed also, the Jnani is not separate from Ishvara. Asamshayaha, he says, there is no doubt. Although he is giving a promise, it is not a prediction. It is a simple logical consequence. There is no way of it not happening. Unlike trying to reach a mountain where anything can happen, it is yours also, it's only a question of clarity. And suppose in the process of gaining clarity one should die, Lord Krishna has already promised that such a person will definitely pick up the thread and continue. Nahi kalyana kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. Even if he dies without understanding, there is nothing more valuable that he could have been doing. So from the standpoint of an onlooker, it is a tragedy. So he gave up everything in pursuit of this knowledge, and then he did not get it. But he had grown out of everything else and was doing what was the most valuable to him. He was happy, he was doing it, and he died. So a person who dies pursuing something else does not die having completed all he set out to do either. So someone who was making money doesn't die thinking, I have made all the money I have to make. Now I can die. Nobody dies thinking everything is over. Only a person who is having jnanam, a jnani, dies having completed everything. So he is the one who dies in fullness because he knows he is not separate from Ishvara. So there is no doubt about this. And this aspect is talked about. This is how we should relate ourselves to the world, at the same time relate to myself and fight adharma and gain mastery over self. We should not cry over the battle of life. Fight the battle of life and at all times keep the mind focused only on God. That is the absolute reality or the absolute truth. This is what is mentioned. It's a very important verse. This is connected to this verse also. That's why I thought we'll go through this verse. We'll go to the next verse in the next session. Bhave bhave yatha bhaktihi padayostava jayate tata kurusha devesha natastum no yata prabho nama sankirtan vyasya sarva papa pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste Hari Om. Ya Devi Stuyade Nityam Vibudhair Veda Paragaihi Same Vasadu Jikhvagre Brahma Rupa Saraswati. Namami Narayana Pada Pankajam Karomi Narayana Pujanam Sada Vadami Narayana Namanirmalam Smaramit Narayana Tattvam Abhyayam. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayyappan, Mahaperiva and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into Canto 4 of Dasagam 16. Anvacharan upadishan apimoksha dharmam tvam bratruman bhadarikashrama madhyavatsi shakrotate samatapo balanissahatma divyangana parivritam prajighayamaram. Anvacharan upadishan apimoksha dharmam tvam bratruman badarikashrama madhyavatsi shakrotate samatapo balanissahatma divyangana parivritam prajighayamaram. Anvaya ata tvam bratruman mokshadharmam anvacharan ubadishan api badarikashramam adhyavatsi ata shakraha te Shama tapobala nissahatma maram divyangana parivritam prajigaya. Atha, then, tvam bratruman, thou along with thy brother Nara, moksha dharmam anvacharan, on the path of liberation, following the path of liberation, or practicing the path of liberation. Anvacharan means, acharan means practicing, literally. Upadishan api, and also teaching it to others. Badarikashramam adyavatsihi, did dwell in Badarikashrama. Ata Shakraha, then Indra. Te Shamatapo Bala Nissahatma, who, of course, out of jealousy, could not tolerate the strength acquired by spiritual disciplines. Here Shama is the spiritual discipline, and Tapa and penance. Maram Kamadeva, Divyangana Parivritam, along with celestial damsels, Prajigaya, sent. So then thou, with thy brother Nara, did dwell in Badarikashrama, practicing and teaching the path of liberation. Indra, who became jealous of thy spiritual power, sent Kamadeva along with celestial damsels to disturb thee, or to cause your downfall by temptations and distractions. The story narrated in verses starting from verses 4 to 8 of this Dasaka appears in Bhagavata 11th Skanda, chapter 4. 11th Skanda, chapter 4. The word Anantaram starts like this, is used here, which means after slaying Sahasra Kavaja or Dambodhava, which we saw in verse number 3. So when they started the tapas, the first obstacle came in the form of Sahasra Kavaja. Now the next obstacle now coming is Indra himself. Should be always understood then, whenever we should do some good activity, tapas like this, tapas is a good activity, spiritual activity, always obstacles come one after another. And it is our commitment to the goal that makes us overcome all the obstacles. So that's how this symbolically is being brought out here. So Naranarayana now started facing the second obstacle. So Naranarayana is stated here that they were following the moksha sadhana, moksha dharma. Not only that, they were on the moksha dharma path, they were contemplating on the higher reality and absorbed in the higher reality. They were also teaching the moksha dharma to the jignasus. That means those who were interested in knowing. Jignasu means jnatum iksha, one who wants to know about the ultimate goal in life, or what is that absolute reality. To such jignasus, this knowledge was given by Naranarayana. So they were both Swayam Acharati, Paran Acharayati. They were Acharya in the two sense. So both of them therefore entered into what is called Nivritti Marga. Marga, free from the path of mundane worldly activities, actions, and directed the mind in this Nivritti Marga. Not only them, even the Jignasu Bhaktas also in the Nivritti Marga. Two spiritual powers are talked about here, Shama and Tapas. Shama means Mano Nigraha, control over the mind, mastery over the mind. Nigraha means not destruction of the mind, control over the mind. Whenever you talk of Shama, Dhamma also is precedes. Dhamma and Shama are complementary. Dhamma is Indriya Nigraha, mastery over the senses, and Shama is mastery over the mind. Without Dhamma, Shama is not possible. So Dhamma precedes Shama. So that is one spiritual discipline talked about. They are both complementary to each other. Then Tapas, abstinence. We already said here, willful self-denial or contemplation on the higher reality. All this is indicated by the word Tapas. Indra had a fear that his Swarga is in danger or may be stolen by them because of this Tapas. Because the power of the Tapas can destroy their happiness in Swarga. He had always a jealousy. Jealousy always comes born of inferiority complex. We should understand that. Asuya Bhava is because of inferiority. It is always said in the Purana, Indra always got disturbed. Whenever anybody does tapas, Indra sees that he will be attacked. So this is purely out of jealousy. He could not stand he could not stand them. Therefore, he is jealous of this, and thinking that it is in danger, he sent the Kamadeva, considered to be the Cupid or the desire, god of all desires or love, and Apsarastri, surrounded by Apsarastris, he sent them to cause obstruction to the tapas of Naranarayana. Or he says, Bhattacharya Bhatt says, to die, means to your tapas. He wanted to divert them from Nivritti Marga to Pravritti Marga. Indra is Devas, Indriyas, Indriyani Devaha. So the Lord of Indriyas, the king, symbolically representing the mind, and this mind represents all the four Antakaranas. We have seen earlier also. Mind includes Manas, Buddhi, intellect, Chetam and Chittam and Ahankara. Chittam is the Chittajnana, representing the knowledge, also the repository of all thoughts. Buddhi is the Viveka Jnanam, crystallized intellect. Ahankara is considered to be the Adho Mandala, the lower region. Chittam, Buddhi and Manas represent the Upari Mandala. We can see that's a higher region. So Adho Mandalam, the lower region, always pulls the mind towards sense objects and sense pleasures. So Indra being the king of Swarga, meaning the Sukha or happiness derived through various finite objects, it can be considered as representing the Adho Mandalam of the Manas. Sense objects that cause desires are the Apsaras, the damsels, divine celestial damsels portrayed here, and the Kamadeva, who is of course the lord of the desires. So when the mind is drawn inward, Antarmukha, the Adho Mandala, the lower region, enters into what is called the Vishaya Sukha. That is a symbolical representation. And these are in the form of Kamadeva and Apsaras. In Puranas you will find, come to them, this Kamadeva enters even to destroy the tapas of Lord Shiva. We have seen many a times. So they were sent by Indra deliberately to disturb the tapas. Badri is a sacred place located in the place where Ganges originate. The ashrama of the Naranarayana is located here, and there is also Narayana temple. We must have seen Badri Narayana temple, which is the Vishnu Kshetra. So Badri forest or Vanam here is known as the Siddhi Kshetra for tapasvis. People come here and meditate. We could symbolically visualize Badri Vanam as the mandala or abode where the mind gaze, single pointed concentration or ekagrata. So the starting of the obstacle is described in this verse. Now we will move into the verse number 5. Kamo vasantamalaya nilabandhushali kanta kataksha vishikair vikasadhilasai vilasaihi vidyan muhurakampa mudiksha Bhirustvayata jagate mriduhasa bhaja Kamo vasantamalaya nila bandhusali Kanta kataksha vishikair vikasad vilasaihi Vidyan muhurakampa mudiksha chatvam Bhirustvayata jagate mriduhasa bhaja. Anvaya is like this. Kamaha vasanta malayanila bandhushali vikasad vilasaihi kanta kataksha vishikaihi muhuhu vidyancha tvam akampam udikshya bhiruhu ata mriduhasa bhaja tvaya jagate. Meaning is Kamaha, Kamadeva. In the previous word is called Mara, here is Kama. Vasanta Malayanila Bandhushali, with his friends Vasanta spring and the Malaya breeze. Vikasat Vilasaihi, with graceful amorous movements. Kanta Kataksha Vishikaihi, with arrows in the form of the side-long glances of the celestial damsels. Vishikaha means arrow. Muhuhu muhuhu means again and again. Vidyancha hitting, and yet Tvam akampam udiksha, finding the unruffled, means undisturbed. Biruhu, became frightened. Ada mrutuhasa bhaja tvaya, then by thee who went smiling, Jagade, was told. That is, Kamadeva was told. Kamadeva attacked thee again and again with arrows in the form of the sidelong glances of the celestial damsels and their amorous movements, supported by his companions, the spring season and the pleasant breeze from the mountain. But finding thee unaffected or undisturbed, he became frightened. Then thou did talk to him with a smile. This is the literal meaning of the verse. We will go into the Bhavartha in the next session. Bhave bhave yada bhakti padayostava jayate tata kurushva devesha natastam nojata prabho nama sankirtanam yasya sarva bhava pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param narayana akila guru bhagavan namaste hari om. Ya devi stuyate nityam vibhuter veda paragehi same vasatu jihvagre brahma rupa saraswati namami narayana padapankajam karomi narayana pujanam sada padami narayana namadharmalam smarami narayana tattvam bhavayam. Invoking the grace of Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Mahapariva and Guru Parampara. We are now on Dasakam 16. We completed the verse number 5, its literal meaning. We will now go into the Bhavartha here. It was mentioned in verse number 5 that Kamadeva, who was sent by Indra, tried to attack or disturb the Lord again and again with his arrows, which are in the form of the long side glances of the celestial damsels. So damsels use them. Arrows is another equipment means used. And damsels and their amorous movements were all enticing. So these were used along with these companions. He told also the spring season and the pleasant breeze from the mountain. The spring, the Malaya breeze, Vasanta, the Malaya breeze, Vasanta Malayanilam Bandhushali. That means the nature also he used to his advantage. So he used the arrows, he used the celestial damsels, their movements, etc., which were more attractive and more causing more kind of intoxicating kind of moments, and also the nature support by the Vasanta, the spring season, and the breeze from the Malaya mountain. All these were used to see how they could disturb the tapas of the Lord. But then, to his surprise, he found that they were unaffected. On the contrary, when they saw that they were unaffected by all these efforts made to disturb them, they themselves were in fear. The fear comes when you become unsuccessful in your efforts. You find that the other person is more powerful than you. The fear as an emotion comes. That's why the fear is talked about. In such a situation, the Lord then talked to them with a smile. The Bhavartha also can be seen in a different way here. The mind which is filled with modifications of kama, desires, when it comes into contact with the infinite Brahman, the reality, it becomes free from such modifications. In such a situation, the arrows of the Kamadeva and his companions, etc., become totally infructuous. Infructuous means unsuccessful. When a person has a steady mind, focused on the high reality, even the Indraloka, which is representing the abode of all material fascinations, become only a slave to such a sadhaka or a spiritual aspirant who is always in contemplation of the Lord or the absolute reality or higher reality. So when the lower mandala of the plane of the mind, Adho mandala, vanishes, Indra and Kama cease to exist. Here it is presented in a picturesque manner how the base instincts of the mind cause obstacles to disturb the ekagrata or single pointedness of the tapasvi, and in the process they become totally ineffective. The smile of the Lord here represents the smile of the sadhaka also. The equipoise of the Narayana symbolically represents the calmness and cheerfulness of a spiritual sadhaka who faces all the obstacles without any kind of disturbance, free from any sorrow, and in a very smileful manner. A calmness, cheerfulness is indicated in the smile. This is how the verse number 5 ends. Now we go into the verse number 6. Bhityalamagajavasanta suranganavo manmanasam tviha jushadvamiti bruvanaha tam vismayena paritastuvata mataisham pradarshayasva paricharaka katarakshi. Bhityalamangajavasanta suranganavo manmanasam tviha jushadvamiti bruvanaha tvam vismayena parita stuvata mathaisha pradarshaya swaparicharaka katarakshi. Anvaya, prose order. He Angaja, Vasanta Suranganaha Vaha Bhitya Alam Ihatu Manmanasam Jushadvam Iti Bruvana Swaparicharaka Katarakshihi Vismayena Paritastuvatam Esham Pradarshayah. Meaning, Angaja means O Kamadeva. Kamadeva is another name. We saw Maraka here is called as Angaja. Vasanta, O spring. Surangana, O celestial damsels. Vaha Bhitya Alam, you need not fear. Ihatu, here, however, Man Manasam Jushadvam, enjoy the product of my mind. Iti Bruvanaha, saying so. Swaparicharaka Katarakshihi, the beautiful damsels attending on thee. Vismayena Paritaha Stuvatam Esham, to them who are standing around thee in wonder and praising. Pradarshaya, thou didst show. So thou didst then tell Kama and others who were standing around thee in wonder and praising thee, O Kamadeva, spring and celestial damsels, do not fear. Look at these products of my mind. Thou did then show them the beautiful damsels or divine damsels attending on thee. Here the picture is talked about how after the smile the Lord presented himself to them, Kamadevas and others, because they were all stuck in wonder and they were praising the Lord, including the spring and the celestial damsels and all. The Lord addressed saying that, do not fear, look at these products of my mind. The products of the mind were that the beautiful damsels were presented as serving the Lord and they were praising the Lord, which that view of the Lord, that themselves be presented here, showing the glory and the infinite power of the Lord in terms of how he neutralized the powers of Kamadeva is being presented here. We can see here that Lord makes them understand the state of mind of the Bhagavan. The Bhagavan has absolutely no anger, no desire, no or delusion, no attachment. Only attachment causes desire and anger. The mind has gained Shama and Dhamma, means Indriya, mastery over the senses, and also mastery over the vacillations of the mind, the thoughts of the mind. It is therefore showed here, Lord has shown them the divine damsels serving is presented here in a very, very figurative manner also. It represents, symbolically also represents the Siddhic powers. The first Siddhi any sadhak acquires is the equipoise of the mind, which is steady, not affected in the midst of disturbing situations. A person who contemplates on the higher reality reaches such a state when nobody can disturb him. That is the first, a calm mind. Thereafter, the subsequent siddhic powers comes automatically. So Lord wants to show them that his mind is free from the influences of kama and fully independent, swatantra. Not only that, if one becomes slave of kama or desire, one gets bound and cannot gain moksha or liberation from samsaric bondages. So a sadhak who is constantly establishing in this kind of a moksha sadhana, freedom from bondage, is endowed with all infinite, auspicious siddhic powers. Is talked about here. What Lord has presented is the siddhic powers of a yogi. What Indra and his damsels could not see even in all the three lokas, Lord showed to them a rare sight of that beautiful divine damsels attending at the Lord, singing his praise, and the beauty, the form is beyond any comparison. This is Lord's own siddhic power which has no comparison. The Lord wants to say that a person who gains a single pointed mind and is focused on liberation, free from the bondages of samsara, he himself becomes divine in his own way. He gains the siddhic powers and himself can confront all the situations by showing his power. That's what he's talked about here. Kamadeva wanted to fascinate the Lord with his all worldly powers, whereby he thought that he could delude the Lord, but the Lord instead, with the same coin, he repaid him by showing that I too have these powers, but then I am not attached to them. They don't bind me, whereas you are bound by them, and I do not use them for any kind of a mean purposes. I use them only for my siddhic power, for loka sangraha, for benefiting my devotees, for giving them that knowledge, for giving them freedom from bondage. This is what Lord wants to say indirectly, saying that whatever you have shown, I have got it myself, so you do not make any attempt to disturb me. Indirectly, Lord says that any devotee, any kind of a meaner instincts when come to the mind, a person who has got equipoise and a steady mind will be always able to encounter them without any kind of disturbances and will be always calm, cheerful and confident. Such a higher state of the sadhak and an undisturbed mind is also indirectly brought out in this verse. We'll go on to the verse number 7 in the next session. Bhave bhave yatha bhaktihi padayostava jayate tata kurusha devesha natastvam no yatha prabhu nama sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Hari Om.